Do you remember where you were the first time that you saw a Bluetooth headset in action?
Oh, it's probably on the street somewhere.
I
Seeing
was
someone talking about.
I was working at Fazoli's, and I was working a drive-through, and the person that had the Bluetooth headset on had it on the ear opposite to the window, and they were just having a conversation, a very passionate, alone in the car conversation, and this would have been circa 2000. So nobody knew Bluetooth was a thing yet. At least we didn't, little 17, 18-year-old Fazoli's workers. And we just thought this person was nuts, like absolutely insane. So I see this person like passionately talk, because you have to remember too, back then it was like the jawbone, right? And the person that bought that thing was doing business. They weren't having a casual conversation with a friend. So he might have been negotiating a contract, or there may have been some big dollars on the line, because the Bluetooth headset itself was an expensive piece of equipment. You didn't get that unless you were in a certain socioeconomic sphere. But I started calling all my coworkers over. I was like, guys, I got one better than the lady that didn't have pants. They're like, no, you don't. Come on over. We got a crazy guy, bona fide crazy guy. And this dude's just talking to himself. And there's like 4 or 5 minimum wage workers that smell like breadsticks and garlic, like looking at him. Then he turns his head and we see this apparatus sticking out of his ear. I'm like, oh. And it dawns on me, like I should merge my undergraduate degree, psychology, with my master's degree, which is in technology, and just start handing these things out to people that are schizophrenic. And then everybody will think they're just having a passionate phone call, maybe with God.
Yeah.
Makes it tax deductible too. You're doing it as a charity.
Perfect.
There you go.
Yeah. This is what I want to talk about today, but that does remind me of a good grind my gears opinion, where people who talk on speakerphone, like just in public as a matter of course, like there's no reason for you to be on speakerphone. I am 99% sure they got that from TV, that the people on TV will talk into their speakerphone because the TV camera needs to hear, and they just assume that's how people are supposed to talk normally on the phone. It's like, that's crazy to me. That's,
we don't need the context for that conversation.
Yeah. I always suspected that it was a hard of hearing thing, because I think you can, if you put it on to your ear, you can't hear as well as you put on speaker and keep it close. But you're right. There may be maybe some subconscious, like this is how it's supposed to work, because, daytime TV does it like this.
I'll say this. I was speakerphone guy in my office.
Oh, yeah.
And I think people thought I was doing it passive aggressively. I have a cubicle. I got moved to an office that was just nice, big, private door you could close. You could take your calls on speakerphone, no big deal. And then I got moved back to the cubicle as part of some sort of space trade at the university. And I was just in the habit of taking my calls on speakerphone. I didn't think anything of it. It didn't occur to me that the sound waves straight over that little cube wall. And I also don't love the feeling of that hotness of the phone pressed against your face. And I didn't have a good pair of headphones, so I just blindly did it. And then one day Eric came to me and he said, yeah, some people are talking. They think that maybe you're mad or something. Like, why are you doing that? And it's like, nope, I just lack self-awareness.
The funny thing is, Paul doesn't really know the real story. Is we were all like peering over the wall going, dude, do you hear that crazy person? There's no one on the other line. Who's he talking to? So then we bought him a set of these, and now he's all better.
Yep. You are listening to The Soapbox. I'm Paul.
And I'm Eric.
This all started out with a list. What's that all about?
So I've compiled a list over the years of things that just bother me, things that grind my gears. And I shared that list with you.
And I thought, you know what? That would make interesting conversation. Sometimes I'm going to want to agree with you, and it's just going to be something we talk about. Other times, though, I'm going to want to steel man the opposite position, because I think that's just interesting conversation.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I'm always right, but Paul's just a really good debater.
Hey.
We have a brand new format for the show today, because I'm in Portland with a friend, Ian, and we're at a conference. And we had to do the podcast this week. So I said, Paul, you go to the studio and you rope us in, and we'll make this work because we know how to use Zoom. So,
Yeah, so
here
the
we are.
audio is going to be slightly different. The video is going to be completely different. And that's okay because it's ours and we can make it how we want it.
That's right. That's right. And so, we're at the GIST conference, which is a transportation conference for people who like digital maps. And my good friend, colleague Ian Hamilton with VHB is here as well. We figured let's not be in the same room because then we'd be fighting for the mic. So we're just in our hotel rooms, and we zoomed here with Paul and Ian. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, great to be here, guys. Really appreciate you having me on from the great city of Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and we'll get into the fun stuff.
Yeah, well, I guess I work with Eric often, and it sort of just started as a guy that I knew at various conferences who kept showing up, and he's a nice enough guy. So slowly warmed up to him and decided to shadow him, and now Eric pretty much volunteers me for anything he's got to do. So I'm happy to be his understudy and anything he needs to fob off on, more
So,
junior people.
so it's not just me then. I feel like I get voluntold often in the presence of Eric. I think he's
You
got an
guys are
MO.
you're both good presenters. We gotta get you out there in front of people. So
No, I mean, there's a reason we're doing this podcast, and it's because Eric has decided that he needs talent on the mic here.
that's right.
And that's why he brought Ian in because, yeah, I'm just holding it together with bubble gum and duct tape here.
Nice.
Awesome. So you work at VHB. We know a lot of folks over at VHB. What do you do there?
So originally, geography, GIS, which is why I'm at the GIS Nerd Conference. We got into transportation planning just because the maps have to do something, and so do a lot of safety work. So anytime you see a roundabout, anytime you sort of see signs on the highway that are meant to keep people on the road, that's often us and the things that we do.
Awesome. And so naturally, we've got three folks in the room who are involved with transportation and safety related topics. And so we're going to talk about something completely different.
Oh yeah.
And,
Oh yeah.
and the format of the show, I'll ask you the question right out of the gate here, nice and early this time. Sometimes we'll wait 20 minutes into a 30-minute conversation before we say it. But Ian, what grinds your gears?
Well, a lot of things grind my gears, and I think in honor of the fact that a lot of things grind my gears, I want to hear situations that you feel compelled by the social contract, either out of the goodness of your heart or just crushed by the expectations of others to act a certain way. And I think the example that you gave earlier with the Coke can, if you order a Coke on the airplane, you have to ask for the full can. Uh, so are you sort of more of a person to be like, no, I am entitled to that Coke can, I will ask for the Coke can? Or are you like, no, I look greedy, I look wanting, I can't ask for the Coke can. I will accept my thimble full of Sprite or whatever it is.
I, I am terrified to ask for the Coke can. I don't think I operate from a headspace of entitlement. That may not always be true, and if that's the case, a good friend would point that out, I guess. So Eric,
Mm-hmm.
I,
I'll
I
let
feel
you
like I'm the
off camera.
okay. Give me the follow up later, but yeah. So I think there's a lot of things that we do. Just as you mentioned part of the social contract, and I like that language quite a bit because I do think it's sort of an unspoken thing. But I also believe that maybe there's a little bit of a generational divide there. I'm noticing that younger people seem to be less inclined to participate in the social contract. And perhaps that's just me noticing their lack of years and experience, or maybe I'm settling well into my position of being a cranky old man, get off my lawn. But I made this observation today, actually. I was getting off an elevator, and two young college-aged girls just started rushing onto the elevator without letting the people that were on get off first. And I just thought, this is like, isn't this the standard? You just wait for the people to get off before you get on. And yet they just seem sort of oblivious to the rule, whether maybe they were in their head, maybe they were distracted by each other's company or on devices. I wasn't even paying that close of attention. I just wasn't expecting to catch a broad shoulder from somebody trying to get on while I was trying to get off. So yeah, I'm aware of the social contract, and I'm scared to violate it.
We work on campus too, so I think, at least in my eye, Paul and I see kind of that wider gap of age groups where they're young college kids and then they're us. And I see that just walking down, the pathways where I was kind of assumed we stay on the right side. I mean, it's where we drive, hopefully. But yeah, people are just all over the path and looking at their phones. And yeah, I maybe to bring it back to the social construct, I'm not one to say anything, like the elevator thing or I don't feel like it's my place to try to correct. I'll correct their grammar, but yeah, I don't know.
That's fair.
There's an interesting, I think it was a hidden camera television show that got sort of used to evaluate human behavior as a psychological experiment. They had a Confederate, which is like a person that's in on the experiment, get on an elevator. And at first, this elevator was 2 or 3 Confederates, and then whoever happened to get on. And they would wait for the doors to close, and then all the Confederates would turn around and face the other way. And they didn't say why they were doing it. They didn't give any indication that this was something that was planned. But all the occupants of the elevator looked around, and then they proceeded to also turn around. And this was a busy office building. There was a lot of people getting on and getting off the elevator. And as the elevator moved between floors, they slowly started pulling the Confederates out of the elevator until the only people that were there were those that had been conditioned by the Confederates. And they continued the behavior. And they passed that behavior along to other people that also got on the elevator. And so before long, you had a group of people on an elevator that waited for the doors to turn, turned around, faced the wall, and nobody knew why, but everybody did it.
So is this the defense of the Zoomer college kids who just ignore the social contract and get onto the elevator because that's the rational thing to do?
It begs the question, doesn't it? And I think the rational thing in that case, if you're a VHB guy, so you're probably thinking about traffic volumes and things like that from an efficiency standpoint. Make it empty before you make it full again. But you got younger people who are sort of challenging these norms. Maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing. Till they bump into you because they're looking at their device while walking on the left-hand side.
Exactly.
Yeah. When you walk onto an elevator and it's full, right? So I think this answer varies depending on who's on the elevator, but if it's full, do you face into the elevator to sort of face the other people on it, or do you face out towards the door and have everybody sort of at your back looking forward?
Depends upon if I have a backpack.
Okay.
No, I actually I've have thought that through, and I usually put my back to the wall and face them. But yeah,
Even if you don't know the people on the elevator?
maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
See? It's tricky. It's tricky.
Yeah.
Does it change, like how many people on that elevator do you have to know to feel compelled to look into the elevator? I
Yeah.
think that's the tipping point.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I've always looked at it like being in a restaurant. I don't know if you have met folks that have been in the military and they have to sit with their back facing the wall, and they have to have their front sort of towards an exit. In an elevator, I think what's going through my mind is like I want to be able to see these people, and I want them to see me for a safety reason, because I don't want to appear a threat, and I don't want them to be a threat. And I think turning your back to somebody opens you up in a sort of a more vulnerable way than creating the awkward social circumstance of eye contact.
That's
Fair
amazing.
point.
I don't know, just having the fight or flight instinct on an elevator just seems like that's great.
I don't like my back towards doors. I've never served in the military or had any rational reason for that. It's just I don't like the idea of somebody just sneaking up on me or making myself vulnerable. I think I saw that it must have been like a Tom Cruise movie or something, and I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
I've always
That's
heard
that's now my life philosophy.
it was a cowboy thing. Like a good cowboy never sets his back to the door or something like that. I think if Paul and I are gonna be honest, probably has to do with going bald and not having people not look at you.
That's like the
No, I
only
hear
place
that.
I have hair now.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be if you're a sides guy, you face out. If you're not a sides guy, then you face in. I could see it. Yeah.
You compiled a list of these though, if I recall. Ian, you got another one to spur?
I mean, we could rapid fire these if we want to. We can go back to the airplane. So we got off the elevator and we're heading back on the airplane. We're catching our flight. The armrest. You
Uh
taking it? Are you leaving it? What do you feel compelled to do?
the one's easy for me. If it's a three-seater, the armrests are for the middle seat. Always.
Mm,
Yeah.
Yep, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And I
is
like the aisle because I have arthritis in both my knees, and I've injured one knee playing hockey, so I need to be able to stretch my legs on a regular basis. So I concede I'm bigger guy. I don't want to be occupying both spots, so I'll kind of tuck one wing in and make that a courtesy for the middle seater.
okay. So it's not like a reach to your right or reach to your left situation. Everybody gets one. It's like, nope, that's the benefit of a middle seat is that you get the armrests.
I think it's the consolation prize. For the window seat, you've got a wall to lean up against. The aisle seat, you can stretch out. You've got nowhere to go, so you should at least have some place to put those bows.
Okay. Okay. No, I think that's very rational. I don't think I don't know. I feel like I don't go for the armrest just because I don't want to risk like bumping somebody or like getting
Uh-huh.
too big. But no, I could definitely see that.
Here's
Now,
here's an add-on to that is if you've ever gotten on because I had this on the flight here to Oregon, and the person in the middle was pretty slender. He's a smaller guy, and he didn't pull down the. I was in the aisle seat, and so he's here, and he didn't pull down the armrest and use it. And going to your thing, I didn't feel comfortable saying, "Hey, why don't we put this armrest down? Because if you're not going to use it, I'll use it." And he just didn't use it at all. And maybe he was more comfortable not having it down. But it's like, dude, if you're not going to use it, I should use it. But
you
the
missed the cue. He wanted to hold hands. He was getting rid of that
Ooh,
barrier.
wow. Misconnections on a Frontier flight,
yeah,
Eric.
Interlocking fingers means you love each other.
Mhm.
he did kind of fall asleep and almost rest his head on my shoulder.
Now, for all the courtesy of thinking about the armrest, I will say I get very territorial if somebody has broached that personal bubble. Not too long ago, I think it was flying to TRB. I had a guy next to me who was sitting pigeon-toed, and his foot was like well across the line where my foot should be. And I'm a broad guy, right? So like I'm not intentionally and spreading or taking up a larger space than I need to, but I shouldn't have to sit, ever so delicately with my feet at a 45-degree angle just to accommodate this clown with his feet out like this. So I actually kind of quietly and just in my own mind waged war with that guy. Every time he shifted his weight, I would encroach on his territory. I was like Russia trying to take Ukraine there.
I was going to ask, what is the socially conscious way of insisting that I need more space? Because you
Mm.
could ask him, you could like be really weird about it and like lean on him or like push against his leg or rub against his leg. But like, what is the like? Are you taking the armrest? Like, if you take low, I take high.
Yeah.
Well, my solution for that one was not something I'd planned. That just sort of accidentally worked out for me. I just started making small talk. I took my headphones out and just started talking to the guy.
Hmm.
And
You put in your Bluetooth headset and started talking to the guy.
I'm like, all right, you know what we're gonna do here? We're gonna do what they did in the dark ages before you could socially isolate from everybody.
Mhm.
But
Killed with kindness.
well, he ended up actually being an interesting guy. We had a good conversation. Eric was sitting one row in front of us, and we were
Right.
talking about programming.
That's
And
right.
so, yeah, there was a point where I almost suggested to Eric we switch seats because this guy would have had a great conversation with Eric on some of the stuff that he was working on.
I remember overhearing that. But so the idea is you started off kind of territorial.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I was like texting Jenny like this douchebag got his foot in my area, blah blah blah, and by the end of it, we were like buddies exchanging business cards.
Were you interlocking fingers?
Didn't quite make it to interlocking fingers, just a solid cupped hand.
I mean, first date, it's tough. It's tough to go that far.
It is.
That's
Maybe
right.
we should have got the Jack and Coke instead of just the Sprite.
It's true, yeah. Don't go on the coffee date. Okay, another one for the crew here, and I've got a wrinkle with this, so I'd be interested in hearing y'all's opinion on this. Holding the door.
Uh,
If the person is a good ways away, like they have to break stride for this not to be weird,
hmm.
where are you on holding the door?
I got my thoughts, but you want to go first, Paul?
I'm talking a lot. I'll go second this time.
Yeah, I mean this one. Yeah, I feel like there's. I haven't measured it, but I feel like there's that awkward distance where it's like I will now very quickly, if I see someone's behind me and I'm coming to the door, I'll go, yeah, I'm not gonna hold the door. It's gonna get weird. So I'll just go through it really quickly, or I won't touch the door to make it close slower because that makes it worse. I think if
Mhm.
you if you kind of push it open as you go through to let it kind of then it's even worse. Then it's like it's slamming closed as soon as they get there. So yeah, I have kind of a mental distance that I'm just like, yeah, this isn't worth it.
I think for me, it's domain contextual. Um, when I was on campus at the beginning of working around all these people, uh, I thought like, oh yeah, I need to hold the door, but you can be a doorstop. You can hold the door ad nauseum if you happen to be doing a class change or something like that. And so like that polite Canadian instinct that I've got to like, oh here, let me get that for you, eh? That was punished. It was punished by just the sheer volume of people in some of these spaces. So on campus, I'll hold the door for the next person if they happen to be within arm's reach. Otherwise, I just let traffic flow. I don't want to be the log jam. I don't want to be the weirdo. Um, I will sometimes just try to evaluate if there's a need. You know, if somebody's carrying something, if somebody looks, you know, like maybe they've got some mobility issues at a gas station or something like that, I'll go out of my way to give them the extra 5 or 6 feet. I'll wait. It's cool. No big deal. And then for a while, actually, I had it in my head like I'm going to intentionally hold the door for people that don't look like people will hold the door for them usually. So if I'm, you know, the gas station example, I happen to be there and there's a migrant worker or somebody that maybe gets overlooked in society. I'll go out of my way to be like, yeah, I got that for you, bro. Just to like make them feel like, hey, you know, we're a community and people see you and people recognize that you're, you know, you're a person.
Okay, that's honestly very conscious of you guys. I am, I don't know. Do you feel obligated to break stride? If you're in that person who's having the door held for you, do you feel like you need to break stride to, I don't know. That to me is like, no,
Yeah.
I'm going the same pace.
I, I
You're doing, yeah.
I do it for comic relief. I think I will like kind of put on a oh hey thanks and it's
Okay.
more of a kind of break the awkwardness with a comic relief type of a behavior, not a you're making me run, which is interesting because I never really thought about it that way. It's like yeah, it's some side of me should be like well I'm gonna walk at the pace I'm doing. You're the one opening the door. You get what you get, but I don't know.
I fully break stride. I'll break stride if somebody waves me on to let me cross, even if the pedestrian's got the right of way in a parking lot. I don't. I think that stems from a fact. I don't like help. I don't like asking for help. I don't like people giving me help. Um, I don't. I don't ask for it, and if it's offered, then I try to minimize the impact it's going to have on the other person.
Mm.
Wow. Okay. I will never break stride. If you hold the door for me, I may even slow down a little bit to be like, wow, what luxury I'm getting to experience with this generous gesture.
Can
That is Giga Chad energy right there. That's looking at him
It's,
and saying, "I am the alpha."
Can
I
we can
don't,
we rabbit trail the door opening because Paul and I have one that we've been dying to bring up, and it would be great to hear your thoughts on it, Ian.
okay.
Um,
I've got one more wrinkle in
okay,
the door saga we've got here.
go
So,
for it.
so, so Paul, you were saying, you feel obligated to hold the door, and you'll feel even more obligated if you feel like, this person needs a bump, What if you're holding the door? They are now breaking stride because, it's in the middle distance, right? Like it's in that weird middle zone, and they trip and fall. Is that your fault as the door holder, or buyer
No,
beware?
but I do feel like that's just maybe part of the benefits package, getting to enjoy that firsthand. assuming they're not injured
As the door holder.
as the
So now
door
you hold the
holder.
door with the explicit intent that you want to see people face plant or hoping that they're face plant.
So let's go to my darker side because we've experienced my polite side, but I like it when I get to watch The Thing. I used to work at the Apple Store in Fayette Mall once upon a time. They had big, very clean glass walls. Once a week, somebody would hit that thing like a bird, and it was always a delight to just watch it happen. And it was never a serious injury. It was always an embarrassing sort of situation. They even put these big white tape things on to sort of create like a visual for people, and everybody's so oblivious that you'd still see that on a regular basis. I was watching a father and son uh, playing ball. The dad was tossing a ball to the kid. The kid was hitting it, and I looked at my brother and I said, "Where that dad's standing's not good. He's going to get hit with that ball." And no sooner did I say that than he took one right to the groin, and he went down like a sack of hammers. I mean, he was in pain. And my first reaction should have been like, "Oh, are you okay?" But no, I have been trained on America's Home Funniest Videos to just laugh at that.
Yeah, no,
And
slapstick will never not be funny. Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
agree.
it's
The Germans
developed a morbid sense of humor within me where I'm like, "Oh, good, you're suffering. Yeah, where's my popcorn?"
there's a German word for that. It's Schadenfreude, and it
Yep.
was yeah. So there's
So
no
yeah, I'll hold the door for you, but if you're injured as a consequence of it, I'll also laugh. I'm a weird, nice, horrible person.
Paul, whenever you meet those college kids that ran onto the elevator without thinking of others, the next time that they face plant into that wall, that window, I hope you're thinking, that's right. That's why you
Yep.
obey the social contract. This doesn't happen if you're thinking of others.
You know,
true.
there's a gratification in seeing a behavior punished.
So here's the behavior I wish we had a way of punishing, and Paul knows this. It's fall time on campus. There's a cool crisp wind. Leaves are falling, and someone walks up to the door and sees you behind them, and instead of holding the door open for you, you know what they do? They push the handicap button, and it slowly opens, and then they awkwardly have to wait, and they're like, I'm positive they're thinking, why did I just push this button? It's opening way too slowly. I've made things worse now. Now the person that's behind me is right behind me. We're both waiting for the door to open. And then we both walk in, and the doors are open for a good, 10 seconds. The wind blows,
Leaves are blowing in.
pouring into the foyer.
Cold air is filling the building.
And what good did anyone do? That's what I want to know.
Good question. I mean, it's the illusion of convenience, right? Like someone thought that they were like, I'm going to make my life easier by taking the easy way out, and it went the other way. It's like a nice metaphor for life.
And I don't understand because I see it on campus all the time, and I know there's kind of a revolving door of students, as long as I've been there. But am I always witnessing like the first time someone does this, or do people do it habitually and just never learn? I feel like I'm seeing the first time they've done it every time.
I think that you're seeing a limited cross section because we've got a particularly slow door on our building.
Mhm.
If you go down to the student center, it's common practice for them to hit the button because the button is away from the door and it's timed in such a way they can get to the door and through the door by the time it's open. So you'll see them, and the button is a whole bar on a pole, so it can be reached from the floor, and kids are just kicking it and walking on through. So I think it's a conditioned behavior. I think they're doing it so frequently in some spaces that they don't really think that it's going to be a different experience in a different space.
Yeah.
I like that this has
Lazy.
devolved into generational warfare between the Xers, the millennials, and the Zoomers.
Yeah.
The college kids are always wrong.
Not always, because let's attack all generations. Then those oldies, they don't like the U-scan. I think they're great.
Yeah.
Have you seen the memes where it's like, well, I didn't get an employee discount. Why should I have to check out my own groceries? Like, listen, there's 4 lanes open right now.
Yeah.
Just
scan a barcode. It's not work.
And it's so easy to steal. I mean, they're asking.
Is that you should have your own employee discount. You make your own employee
Yes.
discount by not swiping those onions.
That's right. I mean,
That's your 5% off.
they're hard to
Yep.
scan anyway.
Mhm.
And then you can make the joke that every cashier hates. Well, there's no barcode on it. It must be free.
Oh my God. Yeah, speaking of grind my gears, if you're making that joke in public, we need to put you in some sort of camp.
I
Isolate you
think
from
we need
society.
a list of terms people aren't allowed to use anymore. The other one that really bothered me in retail was, working hard or hardly working. Like, I make $7 an hour. I don't want to listen to your stupid jokes.
Yeah.
I'm dying inside right now. You get paid more than me to do less than me, and my life is terrible. Please don't point it out.
I choose to believe that whoever invented the self-checkout was just a cashier who just really stopped wanting to hear these jokes.
Yeah.
And they're like, I will save generations from here on out from having to listen to inane small talk from older people just trying to fill space.
That is fair.
I wish we had on the soundboard the real man of genius from the Budweiser commercials back in the 90s.
Oh man.
Yes.
You hit it spot on. We'll have to superimpose that in the video later.
It's been 20 years. Like that the real man of genius jingle has to be royalty free, right? Like surely it's whatever patent they've got on it is lapsed by this point. So I think you're good.
It's 70 years, but we'll round to the nearest 70.
Yeah. Is it 70? Is it really 70 years? Like your trade? Wow. Okay.
Thank you, Disney.
All right. So 50 years from now, we will return to this joke and release the uncut pod with Real Men of Genius jingle superimposed.
Perfect.
Mark your calendars now.
That's right. Coming April 2075.
All right. I've got another one. I don't know, Eric. I think you were trying to take it a different direction, but I've got another one if you wanted to.
No.
So,
I did the push button thing. That's where I wanted to go.
Oh, okay. Good. So another one that I think is important, and I think this applies to a lot of situations, but I think this is the most emblematic of this situation. Parallel parking. How many attempts at parallel parking do you get before you are obliged to abandon your parallel parking effort?
Yeah. And this one, I gotta say, it's once you start. Once you start it, if you go horribly wrong, I'm fully convinced you're not gonna make it work. You're just gonna keep trying, and it's gonna just keep getting worse because they get nervous, and then it gets So
it turns into that scene from Austin Powers where he's turning the thing around in the hallway, and it's got to just go just a eek at a time.
Yeah,
that's a good one, Ian, because I guess if you're in an area where like you found an open spot and this is it, you're not going to find another one for an hour and a half, then it's like that person's probably going to try for a good while. But I mean, if they're parking all over the place, I mean, I think you get 2 tries and then move on. But
yeah, no, I agree because you're right. The clock in your head starts going faster if you fail the first attempt. Like the chances of round 2 or even round 3 landing is pretty slim. But what if they're like, you know what? All I need is a little bit of reinforcement. The person who's in my passenger seat, get out. All I needed is them to just wave me in.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I don't have that much trouble parallel parking. I'm not a great driver, but I'm a decent parker.
This is all just a setup for you to brag, Paul, about your
let me just humble brag for a second. No, I got really good advice on how to parallel park, and I like internalized the sequence, right? Like you line the gap between the windows up to the back of the car, turn the wheel at a certain angle, back up to a certain extent, even it out on the approach, and it
clicked.
It clicked, and that's one I don't really struggle with.
Okay.
I find today it's a big game changer is the cameras and the sensors, and some cars will automatically parallel park.
Let me throw a different one out there though. Backing into a spot versus just pulling in. This one's one that really grinds my gears. I will watch in a parking lot in the morning people coming to work, taking extra time, extra energy, delaying the flow of traffic just so they can back into a spot. And the only time I've ever heard that being defended in a way that I agreed with was somebody that said they had a truck with a large back end on it and they needed to get that out of the pathway. If you got a trailer hitch or something like that and you want to make sure you're pointing that away from the pathway of oncoming traffic. But there are folks that just think it's going to save them time in the afternoon and they don't care. And they just take their sweet old time backing into a spot. And it's like, what are you doing with your life?
I think maybe we even talked about this before, Paul, maybe on the podcast, but who cares? It's a rerun. There is another exception in our parking structure on campus. There are 2 charging stations where you can park, and if you pull in forward, you have to almost touch the wall to get the charger to fit into my charging port, at least. So I don't do it. I got really good at not hitting the wall, but for a lot of people, they back in so they can plug in. And
if there's a utilitarian reason like that, that's great. But that's not 99.9% of them. 99.9% of them are just folks that think, oh, I'll just pull right out in the afternoon, just get right home.
Can I give you a scenario where they could be redeemed? Or not redeemed, but at least like they no longer become the villain in this story. The people who do that sort of like, so they'll go past the parking space because they want to parallel park or they want to back in, and somebody absent-mindedly behind them basically blocks their ability. They drive up and get right behind him and like neglect it or just miss that I'm going to back up. That person's now the worst, right? Like the person who was originally trying to park is in the clear, I would think.
I agree. Yeah.
You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Okay. Law of the jungle out here in the parking lot.
So yeah, the campus parking situation's pretty fierce too. So I feel like maybe I'm hardened by years of competitive parking.
Again with the college kids, man, you just keep dunking on these college kids for insincere practices.
This is a staff parking lot, so in this case, this is a unilateral attack.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've always heard that if you back into your parking spot going to work, it's a sign that you don't like your job because you're thinking about going home and you're not thinking about going to work. And I've always thought, that's dumb. That's a psychology. No, I don't buy it. But then I drive by Kentucky Utilities, and you drive by this parking lot, you see every car is backed into the parking lot. And that's not something, I mean, you go to the mall or you go somewhere, seeing someone back in is usually the rare occurrence, right? Every car in this parking lot is backed in, and 90% of them are pickup trucks. And I gotta think that's a horrible place to work, because if there's any truth to that psychology, but then it also might be a social conformity thing too. It could be like, a bunch of the guys back in, and then everyone's like, when they start working there, like, I guess we back in, so everyone just backs in.
We said 90% pickup trucks too. I wonder if that informs it. If they've got that really long hitch on the back, it may be necessary for all those other large vehicles to be able to navigate that spot.
And then someone's got just a regular old car, and they're like, well, they're backing in, I better back in too. Oh,
I just assumed it was OSHA or some like esoteric regulation that you've got to conform to. That, yeah. Meanwhile, we're painting these utility workers with such a broad brush here, but they are compelled to back in the pickup truck.
Yeah. Well, and I remember even seeing this during some of our ice storm. Kentucky, Lexington, and Kentucky have notoriously had some pretty horrific ice storms and wind storms and things that have really affected the power in the city. And these Kentucky utility employees are heroes. People are driving around bringing them coffee and warm breakfast because they really are. So I drive by that parking lot and see them all backed in, and I'm thinking, yeah, your job really stinks right now. So I don't blame you.
Great save, Eric. Yeah, dunking on our utility workers. You gotta remember, we appreciate all that you do. Yep.
That's for you, Steven, buddy of mine.
Nice. I don't know. Do we have time for one more? What are we thinking here?
You know what? We're at 35 minutes. I say let's throw one more out.
Okay. I think this one's going to go pretty quick. And this one's pretty relatable. So, speaking of the timer going very fast in people's heads, what is your obligation if it's a crowded bar and clearly people are behind you waiting, your term has come up? Do you feel obligated to have a simpler order as a result of the bar being crowded? Do you dumb down your order, or do you like, nope, I'm up here, I want the most mixed drink on the planet. That's what I want. Everybody else has to wait.
I'm a well bourbon on the rocks guy, so it doesn't get too much easier than that.
Okay.
But if you were to map that onto the restaurant situation, maybe I'm with my kids. We've got 5 orders. Everything's custom and complex. I don't tailor it. I don't dumb it down. I'm a picky eater. I have picky eaters in my family. If we don't tailor it to our tastes, people won't eat it. So I would say, people behind me, I'm sorry that you've got to wait. But we'll get through this as quick as we reasonably can. We won't be rude, but we're not going to be especially nice sacrificially either.
I'll dumb it down. Yeah, I mean, normally I'm just a bourbon on the rocks, but if someone was like, hey, let's get some Manhattans, and the line's super long, and the bartenders look busy, I very easily could pivot and just be like, just give me a bourbon on the rocks. But it's social pressure, I think. But I don't know. I'm yeah. I think that's
What about
There's
you?
a third way. There's a third way. I don't think anyone's ever done this, but I think that there is a third way. What if you were like, give me all the separate ingredients, I will go mix it myself. Give me the cherry, give me the bourbon, give me the vermouth. I'll go figure this out on my own.
I want it
Save you the
deconstructed.
trouble. Yeah.
Now we're just kicking it to the dishwasher and saying, all right, you're gonna have to wash 9 glasses for my.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But it saves. I guess that's true. No, I should be more conscientious as a service worker. I thought we were saving the people in the bar. We were saving the bartender, but no, it's
Robbing Peter to pay Paul.
No.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I need to know.
This is the most bizarre episode I think we've ever recorded in terms of format. We have flipped it entirely. Usually we're the ones asking the questions, but this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate, Ian, you being willing to be on the podcast, and the extra pressure of having to do it from a hotel room with crappy Wi-Fi. You guys nailed it. This was a really great conversation.
It's fun. It was almost like our quick hits. I think this is quick hits with Ian. This was fun.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I could come back on with a stronger take, but if the take isn't spicy enough, I didn't want to waste y'all's time for 30 minutes, so this seemed pretty evergreen.
No, that was good.
Yeah, keep it spicy. That's the best. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll cut it here, and we'll see you guys next time on the Soapbox.
Thanks for listening to the Soapbox. Eric, how can people find us?
Well, conveniently, we put everything on our Linktree site. You can go to Linktree, search SoapBox Lex, and you'll find all of our socials there, plus ways to reach us, ways to engage, and some of our original content, so you can see some of the other stuff that we do.